Happy Feral Monday. And not only is it Feral Monday, it's going to be Feral Frosted Monday. Let's do some purple frost. So we're gonna start with this. If this isn't Frosty Perfection, I don't know what is. I'm gonna pick this up on a C31 so we can smooth it out. I'm gonna start on my brow bone. We're still gonna we'll probably layer a shadow on top. We'll get to that in a minute. I actually just saw the one I want, but I want an extra frosty. So we're gonna start with this all over our brow bone. This is so much fun. And I know a lot of us tend to stay away from frost, and to jump in, you don't have to just do this complete frost look, but there is something very appealing about it. And the reason why is it's the way the light catches. So if you feel like frosting, frost. Now we're not gonna put this away, but I do like to keep the lid on it. That's really, really important. I need Sheila. I'm telling you, Sheila, oh wait, there it is. I'm sitting on Sheila. It's my fault. But she does tend to run away. So we're just gonna wipe that off. And now, are y'all ready? Let's start with these. Let's go ahead, grab this shade. I don't remember the last time I've used one of these, but this is gonna be so much fun. Oh my gosh, I forgot how pigmented. So we're just gonna put this one in our socket. Still using that C31. That's gonna be our depth. I'm gonna take it on this outer part of my lid. And what are we gonna do here? We're gonna trust the process. Also, it is Feral Monday, so I'm sure most of y'all are already trusting that process. This is so nostalgic. How much fun. Let's transition it a little bit with this color and just stamp that right above it. And don't worry about it looking like the perfect cream eyeshadow, melted perfection. That's not what we're going for right now. What we're going for is just laying down color to enhance the next colors. Oh, that's so fun. Nice. Same thing on this side. That is such a pretty shade. Look at the shades that we're using. This one on its own. That is so pretty. So pretty. I want to know if you ever had this palette or any of these palettes, because I know these have been around for a very long time. I believe I had this exact one. If it wasn't this exact one, it was something so similar. So vote right here. I want to know, because I love makeup nostalgia. Now I want to use this shade. This is so pretty. And we're using this brush so we get a little bit of that extra color payoff. And that's gonna go on our lid. Now, I will say I recommend using this formula the way that we're using it. We're gonna put a powder eyeshadow on top. Wearing it alone, especially on oily lids, we might run into some creasing because it's a cream that is really gonna enhance the next step, but it also is a cream that I feel absolutely wants to move around. So these are gonna be better the way that we're using them right now. So we're gonna use two palettes. We're gonna use this one, they're both Revlon though. And then we're gonna use the purple one. I'm gonna have them listed for you. I'm really excited. I already put a little bit of that color right there. It is so pigmented. You know what else would be a fun video before we get into it? I need to take this off, but to follow, these are hard to get off, these security things. I'll get it off eventually, but to follow the little guide here, that would be really fun. I think we should do a video on that. So you can see this shade definitely has that sheen to it. So we're gonna take that on an E28. Look at how pigmented. These are really, really good. I feel like I don't remember them being this good. Maybe it's the brushes. I'm gonna say that. And then I'm just gonna push it into the socket. I like to set the socket first. And the reason why is because that's where you have the most friction. So kind of get in there and do that first. That way you don't have any more creasing. You kind of got it under control. Okay, now let's wipe our brush off. Now let's move over to this palette. We're gonna move over into the darkest one. I'm gonna pick up a little bit less, but I'm gonna use this to transition. Oh, I have to let Gene in. He's right outside my door, absolutely, just snorting. Sounds like a little piggy. I'm gonna pick up a little bit more, finish this transition, and then let Jean be in. He literally sounds like a pig. I'm gonna give you a tip. Of course I am. I'm gonna give you a tip. So even no matter what formula finish, whatever eyeshadow you're using, it's always a good idea to let it overlap. And what I mean by that is I'm pressing it into that darker shade first and then kind of building it upwards. And the reason why is because that's how we really melt things. I feel sometimes, and this was my thing when I would try to transition eyeshadow, I was trying to keep them very, very, very separated, but it's a lot better if we kind of work them together and then up. I feel like we're so afraid that we're going to lose the definition that sometimes we as in me, this is all coming from where I'm at, never how I view other people. But I was so afraid that I was going to kind of lose those colors, but it's really important for them to melt into one another to get a really nice blend. So don't be afraid of that. Don't be frightened. I'm still adding that same shade, and I'm packing it on a little bit more on the outer part. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. You pick up more for that side. This is so fun. So nostalgic for me. So good. Now I'm gonna grab this shade, pick it up on the side, and that's gonna go more towards the inner part. Now, this is gonna be our, oh no, sorry. This one's gonna be our lid color. I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm too excited. And I'm just kind of pulling that across the lid. I'm not, it looks like I'm sweeping back and forth. I'm really not. I'm kind of just pulling, and then I will kind of sweep, but I'm not really doing this. And the reason why is with any kind of shimmer, anything satiny, frost, like what we're doing, we really don't want to overwork it, but we do want to build it. And sometimes when we keep on just fluffing like this, we kind of just fluff everything away. So we want to just be a little bit mindful. I don't want to make you scared of it, but we want to load up that brush and we kind of want to just pull, and then we can kind of just pull down. I'm always kind of pulling in one direction. Even if I'm switching directions, I'll just go there, but then this way, but I'm never really just going back and forth. We're gonna grab this shade, oh sorry, this one. That's gonna go more here. Perfect. I don't know what's going on out there. Drag racing. Put that on our inner corner. Fun. And then I think I wanna do a little bit of a wing. I think I'll do my Valentino liner. I can't wait for you to see this with back camera. It's so fun. There's so much to mention. I still love this liner, by the way. Still my favorite liquid with the brush tip. I know, dog. It sounds like somebody's here. We have to go investigate. We went ahead and threw on our lashes. We as in me. I do that a lot. And then I'm just kind of clamping them to my natural lash and kind of holding them up a little bit. Let's give it a good clamp. So I went into Ulta yesterday for one thing. We know how that went. You know what? I haven't tried the updated version of MAC Studio Fix. They added the, no, I think it always had SPF. Y'all can correct me. It's been a while. You know, I've never really been a huge fan of MAC foundations. I like their cream to powder foundation, but even the original formula didn't really do it for me. And I also feel like the shade range was not where I wanted it to be. It was big, but the cooler tones were just not, it was very warm, hopping right over into peachy orange. So, but I did pick this one up and I got the right shade. Well, it was the right shade yesterday. Who knows where we're going today? Apparently I don't know how to open it. Okay, I'm just gonna do one pump just to put it here. That looks pretty good. Still a little warm, but once it dries down, you're going to see that's going to start to really turn into the right shade. But this also brings us to something. So this is a 24-hour matte foundation and oil control. What I'm saying is it's a long wear. So anytime you have a long wear foundation, let it completely dry down before you choose your shade, because you can see that this is already, it's not oxidizing, but what it does is it's drying down and it's showing that true pigment. So pigments sometimes, I mean, we see this all the time with eyeshadow. They look different when they're wet as opposed to dry. So keep that in mind even when it comes to picking a long wear foundation. You know what? Let's also have some fun. I picked this up. This is super nostalgic. I was feeling nostalgic yesterday. I don't know what happened to me. I blame the potato salad. So I got a lighter shade in this. This is actually going to be, let me just show you really quickly here. I'll wipe it away. That's going to be too light for my under eye alone. I'm going to use it as a brightener, and we're going to use it underneath. We're having fun. It's Feral Monday. We're just sassing around. My potato salad will be there when I get downstairs. Fun fact, I like potato salad. Before I wipe it away, you can see that it really didn't even conceal anything, and not even in terms of blemishes, but what happens is it just kind of starts to turn gray. There's no balance underneath it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to wipe that off, but right now we're going to put our corrector on. And you might be thinking, wow, this is going to be a lot of product. It's really and truly not, and you wind up using less of everything else. So we're going to do our corrector. We definitely want a corrector with this, because that purple that I use in the frost, it's going to bring out a lot of the imperfections underneath my eye. So we need some balance first. Really make sure that's nice and evened out. The C31 is perfect for this because of the density and the shape. It really evens them out. It's truly perfect for getting around the fine lines. This is one of the reasons when I do the wear test, you never see creasing. All right, remember, we wiped that off. So we're just putting the corrector on right now. We're not putting that on top of the concealer. The concealer's gone. And we're gonna let this dry down. I do love this corrector because it will completely dry down. If you have to use a darker shade than what I use, say you have a deeper skin tone than me, I do recommend lightly setting. I wanna do a video on it, but I want you to set with a powder very close to the corrector color. One size just expanded their shade range, and that's what I mean when I say I would want that. And the reason I would want that with a darker shade than this is because that pigment is stronger. Pigments can be strong. It's a real thing. They can be more intense. Obviously, we know that. We know that a black eyeshadow is a stronger pigment than a white eyeshadow. So that being said, when you say you have a very deep skin tone and you're using red or bright or burnt orange to correct, those colors can be a very intense pigment, and that means that they kind of just want to move around. They want to mix. They're just very, very intense. So what I would recommend is setting. I'm talking fluffy brush, smallest amount, just press a little bit on there. That way when you go to put your concealer on top, it doesn't start to mix in with your concealer. Now the shade that I use for my skin tone obviously isn't that very intense pigment, so that's why I don't really have to do it. But if you start getting into darker correctors than what I use, and sometimes I even do it for green. Green can be a little bit intense. So that's a very, very good tip, and I will do a video on it for you. I also want to show you something. You see that? It did dry down, so it's not blending, which isn't a bad thing. I just want to kind of show you that. So what I'm going to do to reactivate it is grab this stuff, a hydrating spray, not a setting spray. I'm just going to reactivate it a little bit, and then I'm going to see that. Ooh, see that? That's the foundation. That's where we start. Wish somebody would have told me. All right, let's go ahead. Yep, we're good to go. And I feel that sometimes we would have looked at that set foundation like, oh no, what do we do now? But a hydrating mist. Oh wow, that looks really nice. Very blurring. Ooh, my red ears, they're always red. I'm reddier like a turtle. All right, I'm gonna stop the foundation right here. We're not gonna go underneath the eye. And what I'm doing is, I'm in a hurry here. Mom just called to me. I'm not gonna rush y'all, but Mom needs me for something cooking downstairs. So I have a while. Don't think I'm gonna rush this, but normally I would be a little bit more meticulous on how I applied it. But one thing you did see me just do right then is I waited and I smoothed it out with my hand. The fact that that's the same foundation is so fun. Oh, she's coming up here. She's gonna get me. All right. But again, I would never ever rush what we do here, but I'm just gonna kind of do some shortcuts the way that I can. And that was a lot faster than being more meticulous. So let's just continue to work this in. Now we need a C30 for placement. And I'm really not gonna put a whole lot because I still wanna put a little bit of foundation on top. And this is still something I would recommend for special occasion makeup. This isn't a makeup technique that I would wear every single day unless you want to. That's not what I mean. It's just a little bit more of makeup. It's just, there's more makeup. And if you don't want this much makeup, because it can take a little bit longer, then don't or do. Let's just have fun. So let's brighten, brighten, brighten. And that's what we're doing here. We're brightening, but I still want to make sure that I'm not gonna have something like this. If I was to put this on very intensely and not put a little bit of foundation on top, the concealer itself could give me flashback. But if I do the technique that I'm about to do, it's just gonna be so bright. I was saying it's just gonna be very, very airbrush. And I also wanted to use this brush because it's not gonna pick up as much product and it's gonna lay it very, very flat, very, very thin. And that's what we need to work with around our eyes. So we can also do the same highlighting through the center and then just go back over with some more foundation. And it's not even that we need a ton of foundation. You're gonna see it's a very small amount, but it kind of peeks through the foundation and then glows. So I think a lot of times when we think glow, we automatically think shine, shimmer, but you can get glow, you can get a matte glow doing a technique like this. Gotta make sure it's nice and flat. That's not flattened enough. Then we'll grab our C31, but we don't want any product on it. Is that the one with the eyeshadow? There we go. No, everything has ran away. Oh, no, we're good. And then we're gonna just smooth some more. Now the difference between this brush, this is more for placing and flattening, and then this would be more for working it in. Brush density, shape. This is gonna get in there. This doesn't have the ability to kind of work it into the skin. It's just more about placing. I'm really gonna work around the fine lines. You'd be surprised. I know a lot of times we don't wanna wear this type of layering because of fine lines. I have them, I'll be 36. I'm not a spring chicken, but this technique of the small brush, the placement, it really and truly makes such a difference. It makes such a difference. And also, since this is such a matte concealer, again, it's just gonna be this beautiful matte lit with from in glow. Matte doesn't always mean crusty, dusty. I promise it's all about the skin prep, which is on my saved highlights. I'm picking up the smallest amount. And I'm even picking it up on the brush, but you're seeing that it's such a small amount. It's not getting into the bristles. It's just enough to ever so lightly cover to melt everything together. I'm gonna do some more. It's just that it's that very small amount like what we use to kind of go in here. It's about that much. Tiny, tiny, tiny amount. Melt over that. I'm grabbing from the flattest place on my hand. Oh Lord, he's taken a bath. Jean, the worst noises ever. Melt that together. All right, one of my favorite products is Back. I'm gonna give it a really good shake. So if any of you bought the Cover FX products moons ago, like me, and your dropper did not work, I'm sorry. I fell victim to that, and they did fix it. And now we're going to use this today. So this is, I don't want you to be frightened. It looks very, very shimmery, but what happens is, I'm going to use this one drop and demonstrate. What happens is as you blend it, the pigment, the shimmer gets pushed down more, and you're kind of left with a satin bronzer. not so much a Tin Man bronzer. So it's going to look a little scary, but it's supposed to, first it's sour, then it's sweet. Now we're just gonna take our C40, press that in, and I do find this is fun. This is really important and probably something you might not have thought of. So when I do purples can sometimes, they can make things on your face look a little washed out. And what I like to do is I make sure that I'm using a bronzer that has a little bit more of a red to it, because I feel that that balances it. Instead of using something very, very orange, I want it to have red. So sometimes, and I understand we don't all have a red bronzer, but most of us, I feel this day and age, blush has taken over our existence. So we have a very pinky red blush, and that kind of transitioned into the bronzer you already have can really help balance. And then I want to blend it on this side so you can see. And I also, I feel that sometimes the C40 is the one that can be the most confusing out of the brushes. I actually filmed a video. I need to post it on Rose and Bim Beauty. So you're going to notice shorter to longer. You're also going to notice how it kind of sits a little, see how it's always fluffy here, but it's not too short to where it's too dense and you're just going to get intense color, but it's also not too long where it's going to flop. So what I like to do, short end to my ear, just give it some stamps, and just by doing this, it starts to transition that product for you. See that? And then it's so easy. But you just need to know a little bit about it. Literally, it's the best. Sometimes they can be too long and they start to flop, and then sometimes they're too short and then they won't transition. That's where this came in. I thought of everything. Also, my technique is always about tapping, and that's how you build color, and it's also how you avoid patchiness. Swiping leads to patchiness because of dry time in makeup. It's just what happens. It's really about that dry time. And you remember how this foundation dried, right? So whenever you tap, you really and truly you're not running the risk of it kind of just becoming patchy and over blended and muddy. So that's another thing to factor in. So I want to layer peach blush because it's Feral Monday and we just use all the products that we can and all the techniques that we can because it's fun. So I bought this. This is from Addiction Tokyo. It's so pretty. I honestly, I want to say it's sold out, and that's heartbreaking. But I'm going to put on a lot of it, and then I'm also going to put a peach blush on top of it. So now we need our C41. This is so pretty. Look at how pretty that is. I need the pink one. I think it's sold out too, and I don't know what's going on over there, but we need it. Listen, Addiction Tokyo, we need all this. It's good stuff. So normally day to day, this is not something I would do, but I want to use a little bit of powder foundation. When I say a little bit, that's all I mean. We're still going to go over this with loose powder, but the loose powder doesn't have enough pigment to kind of really melt this in. So we needed a powder foundation, but we need the smallest amount because these can get a little heavy underneath the eye. The reason we want finely milled is because it's so finely milled that it just disappears. But we're using this more as a melter and something to make sure that our under eyes are nice and balanced. Say if we were to take flash photography, using a powder foundation super close to your skin tone would just absolutely make sure you did not have flashback. But it's also not going to take away the brightness because it's still in our range and we're using such a small amount. You can see that my under eye still has quite a bit of glow to it, but I just needed that little bit of color that powder that I can only get from powder foundation. Now I'm going to grab my Givenchy powder. It doesn't have quite as much color as other ones because we already have a little bit of color. We really don't want to change it, but we do want to continue to smooth and set. Oh, that looks like a filter. And now we'll just go ahead and I'm going to set the center of my face. And then I'm still going to set the bronzer. This is still my favorite tip. Well, I have so many favorite tips, but one of my favorite tips is to set your liquid bronzer with another bronzer so you don't change the color or have it turn gray. You keep the depth of the bronzer. And then you're thinking, oh, that's a whole lot. Whenever you have time or you can, layer your powders on top of your creams. It just makes everything look so dimensional. it really makes a difference. I'm so happy Cover FX is back. This is a new one, but I still have my old one, which is super expired, but they did send me a new one. And then I'm just gonna set, look how pigmented that is. I barely tapped in there. And we're just instead of setting with powder on the perimeter, I'm setting with bronzer. It's not really that scary, but I highly recommend it. It just makes such a difference, and it just makes everything look more airbrushed. Even a powder super close to my skin tone, if I was to put that over the bronzer, this one right here, if I put that over bronzer, it's going to turn it gray. We're still frosting, y'all. Let's grab this one. Notice I grabbed it on the front of the brush. That way I can just go right underneath here. You know, sometimes when I first started, I had no idea it was that simple. If you've ever noticed, I don't use 20 brushes. I remember back in the day, I would use 20. But obviously, I thoughtfully designed these, but even the brushes that you have right now, I never want you to feel pressured to get the brushes. I do love them, thoughtful, yes, yes, yes. But something that you already have, if you just kind of think about the shape of it and where you're picking up your next product, you're able to get multiple uses out of a brush. Now let's grab the darkest shade, and we're switching to an E27. And I like that cream because listen, we're not gonna have fallout. Oh, that's sassy. Wait till you see it with back camera. Just press it in there. And then I would always, I remember back in the day, I feel like I had this exact palette. I would put that lighter shade underneath here, like that. This one. All right, then I would just wipe really quickly, and then I would have went into this, and I would have said, in the corner, just like that. Oh, frosted. And it's palettes like these that just honestly make my makeup heart sing, because this is my inspiration. This was the beginning. Let's top it with this little number. Look at how pretty that is. I love this formula, by the way, both the bronzer and the blushes. This is going to be wildly pigmented. Oh, that's so pretty. You know, I don't think these are baked though. Let me, no, probably not because of where it's made, but we'll get into that. But ooh, you know what? I will forever say, I don't like when products have that much texture, because it's so important how we pick that up on the brush. That could still leave a mark on my cheek, and it would be very hard to blend. Then I'd have to start swiping back and forth. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna even that out, and that's so much better. And we're just gonna go right on top of that first coral. And this is kind of like a blush topper. It's very, very pigmented, but I'm kind of using it as a blush topper. I know that seems kind of like, oh, you're just nitpicking, but I'm doing it for you. I would even know exactly how to go back in again and tap, but we don't all have the time to sit there and go, hey, God. We don't. So if I were to ever make blush, I would make sure and I know this is so pretty and appealing, but it's kind of hindering. So that I would make it completely flat, because I would want to make sure that you're not struggling, because sometimes even the way that it's in here, I had to pick it up again, and I'm very careful, but the way that it picks up from the pan it can make or break the product. Sometimes you'll go back and you'll think about it, and you might not have liked the product because of how it was pressed into the pan, or even the design it had on the pan. It's so important. I also just want to remind you, the way that I use this, it's not as pigmented the way that I used it, but I want you to know that this blush can be very, very pigmented. Okay, just want to let you know. And then for nostalgia's sake, I'm going to use a Revlon lip liner. This is the shade Raisin. I'm just going to do a rough outline here. Not that rough. Get it together, Rose. Jean, get it together. And you know what? I'm not really loving this foundation at all. It honestly kind of enhances texture. I'll show you with that camera in a minute. Y'all are my friends. That's what I would do to you on FaceTime. But I'll move on to lipstick in a second, but I did just want to say I'm not really loving it. The only MAC foundation I know that I love is that cream to powder foundation. I do like that one, but it is very full coverage. So now we're gonna take, I'm gonna do a frost. This is the shade Blushed. I gotta get in there. That is actually really pretty. I love makeup. It's fun. And now I'm gonna finish my lip line with Raisin. I feel like it's easier to overdraw this way. I would actually wear this color all the time. I love this. By the way, here's what the lipstick looks like with no lip liner. Definitely a nice frost. There it is. There you can see the frost. It's really pretty. Yeah, this is not how my makeup looked when I used to try to use this palette. All right, I want to show you the back camera. I just feel like I see texture that I don't normally see. And it's not even where I put that concealer. It's more where I didn't put the concealer. I actually felt like through the center where I did put the concealer, it looks really nice and smooth. But I could already tell that I wasn't gonna like that foundation. But I'm pretty sure that this powder here, love this powder, this one can help smooth it. I'm just gonna press it in there. I'm telling you, if you are looking for a powder to kind of finish up everything, this has been one of my favorite powders, and y'all know how many pressed powders I've used. Yeah, I'm just not crazy about the foundation. I do have balanced dry skin, but I will say my skin is really nice and balanced right now. And it's just not a foundation I would reach for. If I want something long wear, I'm gonna do my double wear. I'm just gonna go around the edges. But that definitely helped. Do yourself a favor and just, if you need a powder, this is the one I'm gonna recommend. Other than the foundation, I love everything else. All right, y'all, I gotta go cook some food, finish off my potato salad. One thing's for sure is I'm frosted up today. I love y'all so much, and I'll post later tonight, so I'll see you there, and I'll definitely see you tomorrow.